Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker. I'm Robert Mesh, and I am the guy they call Smoker Broker. Happy Thursday. Hope everything's going well. Gearing up for July the 4th, getting into the fourth weekend. I would think that this fourth is probably more special for a lot of people or has more meaning for a lot of other people than it has in a long time. I think that this is probably the first time in many, many years that we've faced such issues when it comes to the question of liberty and freedom. Even for myself, I've reflected back over the last, you know, 6 months, and it's incredible because it doesn't matter what side you stand on. This isn't a comment one way or the other. Uh, a lot of people, a pet peeve of theirs of mine is I'm very neutral, but you have to be when you're live and on media. But I will say, no matter what camp you're in, I think everybody would have to agree to some extent that our liberty is a little bit threatened right now, depending on a lot of different things out there. Depending on what side of the fence you are with COVID, you know, whether you have a mask on, what side do you stand with protesting? What side? I mean, there are so many things right now in this country where people legitimately are concerned that their freedom to do what they want to do is somewhat in jeopardy. And that's a tough line to hold. It's a tough line to hold when you go through because the greatest part of this country is the freedom and the flexibility, the pursuit of happiness. I think everybody right now would have some concern. What is the pursuit of happiness at this point? What is it that we're doing? So for me, and I think for a lot of people out there, the fourth has a lot more meaning this week. This weekend, I think a lot more people are going to be much more sentimental in their views that you're going to see their postings. I think you're going to see a lot more appreciation or even concern as we reach this fourth. So the fourth's always been an outstanding holiday to celebrate in this country, and nothing ever takes away from the greatness of it. But it's going to be a little different this year, and this first time in a long time we've been tested so hard on all the things that we embrace, love, live, and it's really a true test of humanity in general as to how we're handling what's going on in the world today. And I like the show we have today is a good one because it really embraces a lot of these things that we're talking about right now, but it talks about your development, your freedom, the things that you need to do, the things that make you happy. Not only is our guest just a professional business coach, he's a motivator. He's a genuine good guy. I've known him for years, and I think we're trying to get him in the studio right now. I'm going to have an introduction here and just right there. He's already there. I don't even know how much. This is a good day for this show because it's great to go into the fourth weekend with a positive, upbeat, and addressing all the things that really affect us in our personal lives right now. So I think it's a perfect timing for the show. It's funny, I had him on. I have a list of people that I always want, and I wanted to talk with him. I had him for like the next month or two, and then I started thinking, I'm like, this is probably a better week to bring him on with what we're going through and what we're trying to attempt in all of our business stuff. So I want everybody to give a really good welcome to my buddy out here, Mr. Carlos Villarreal. He is a longtime friend. We used to work way back when. At least I've probably known Carlos now for 25 years. Our days back at Foot Action. He is a longtime colleague. He's a really great personal friend, and this is really one of the first times we've talked in a long time. He's moved. He's in the San Antonio market, but it's so good. That's one of the great things about technology and Zoom and all the stuff we have out there is that we still see each other's lives quite a bit. So it's really like I just saw you yesterday. Carlos, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Robert, I'm doing fantastic. So, look, I am so grateful that you had me here with your community. Brent, hello to you as well. Um, this is really exciting. I mean, yeah, as Robert mentioned, we've known each other for many, many years, and technology just seems to improve. We have connections and everything, and we can still keep in touch. And here we are today. Um, and I'm just so grateful to be part of this community and sharing some time with y'all for the next hour or so.
I know so many, I go through so many coaches and, uh, business partners in the firm that we run. That's a very common thing. And, you know, there are some good ones and there's some not so good ones. I know that you started doing this a while back, and I always told the friends that we had in common, I go, he's perfect for that. That's exactly what he's always been. He's a great listener. He's good with advice. He's a good-hearted person, and I've told a lot of people we have in common. We always talk when we see people that we're like, "Hey, have you seen him in a while?" I'm like, yeah, he's doing really well. He looks great, and that's a perfect position for you because believe me, I deal with coaches day in and day out, and some of them I'm like, hey, good try, try harder. Some of them don't necessarily have what it takes. So for me personally, it's great to have you on because I think the guys are really going to enjoy the next 45 minutes or so. It's funny, we have topics that are set that we're going to discuss today, but I'm going to tell you, Carlos, been doing the show for a while now. We'll probably get to like section 1, and we'll have to do like 5 more shows to get through all this stuff. So I already know these topics are going to discuss a lot of things in there. Don't want to forget my buddy over here, Brent. I love the title on there, Not Jonah Hill. That is awesome. Now, anybody who knows and follows me, that's a really great subline there because I've been really big over the last, for me personally, for the last 10 years, but even more so recently, I've really been pressing the topic of what we're doing at the SWR group in Keller Williams. It really is a live money ball. We are playing money ball in the SWR group. And those of you who are not familiar with the movie and you've never seen it before, Moneyball addresses the attempt with the Oakland A's general manager to redraft the way baseball was done, to really restructure how teams were built, which is actually kind of fitting for what we're talking about today. How teams were not doing it the traditional way, taking a different route, doing something that nobody believed in, having fear, scared of it, people telling you it's a dumb idea. Well, that's what we do.
Dumb ideas.
Our group. We're turning it. Yeah, we're turning that around, and it's funny. The station owner and producer, he knows that about us, and we've been joking that Brent and I, it's very similar to the roles in the movie. Of course, I don't look like Brad Pitt. He doesn't look like Jonah Hill. It's probably the reverse way around, but that's a funny subtitle for him today. Brent's our director of ops at the SWR group. Carlos, you and Brent would get along very well. Two similar people, few years apart, but very similar. He reminds me a lot of you way back when. So Brent, thanks for coming on today. I really believe you're going to benefit as much as I'm going to benefit from listening to some of the things Carlos has to say. So Carlos, tell them just a little bit. I gave a little background. Tell them what you've been doing, how you got here, and what it is that really drives your passion to be in this business coaching business.
Yeah, well, look, I'll keep this as tight as I possibly can, but I started off in retail right after high school and college, started working for Foot Action athletic shoe stores, and that's where Robert and I paths crossed. But I was with Foot Action for 18 years, and I was young. I was managing my first store at 19 years old, and I thought I knew it all, right? 19 years old, managing my first store, and I had a head this large. I made several mistakes. I climbed up the ladder. I was a very young district manager by the age of 24 years old. Wow. And, I thought, wow, success is coming really quick. But again, I made a lot of mistakes, but I really enjoyed retail. There's a saying in retail, you either love it or you hate it. And that comes down to really the people that you're serving as customers, but the people that you get to work around. And so I spent a total of 18 years at Foot Action, climbed up the corporate ladder, managed a few different districts, Tampa, Florida, Miami, Florida, moved to Dallas, and I spent time on the district there before going into the corporate office in Irving, Texas, and operations manager. And so, after 18 years, and when Foot Action decided to move the corporate office to Mahwah, New Jersey, I decided that I had been here long enough and it was time to go. And I was very fortunate that I had some connections, people that had left, and I wound up working for Oric Vacuums. But the really interesting thing about Oric Vacuums was that I was going to be in a position where I was going to be working with independent owners. And later, we had them under a franchise agreement, but these were basically independent owners of their own brick and mortar store. And this was really exciting. It was exciting, but it was also very scary because I was going in and working with these owners, and these are people that have had their business for 10, 15, even 20 plus years. And I found it really interesting that a lot of them did not know enough about P&L statements. They didn't know about operations. They didn't know general retail. And what actually happened, a lot of these owners, they got into the vacuum business, and that turned into a retail model for David Oric and his son Tom. And so they signed up as an exclusive dealer, but they had like very few of them had like very little retail experience.
So I can relate a lot to that. There's a couple of things you said that you and I just see complete eye to eye on because our backgrounds are very similar. So one of the first things, we have that issue in real estate. In fact, we discussed this just yesterday on one of the bigger calls. One of the most difficult things, we have a lot of real estate agents that watch the show on archive, throughout the week, not just in Keller Williams, but throughout a lot of brokerages. And when you get to become a manager of like a real estate brokerage, i.e. a team lead, whatever you're called in whatever brokerage that you're in, one of the most difficult things for those people is that their qualifications for them becoming one of those people is typically driven by sales and sales only, meaning they were a good salesperson. So they're like, they will be a good manager. And those two things don't always mix. A lot of people who are good salespeople were never very good managers, and they never will be very good managers. So I like the fact when you're talking about that, we experience this issue quite a bit. I love your early year background. I had a similar, you probably don't remember, but I actually ran Kroger grocery stores prior to working.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was a young manager. I was at 17, 18 years old running stores and, working throughout the district. And I too made a lot of mistakes. But what I love about it, I tell everybody this all the time, this is something very common for me. I interview a lot of people throughout the week, at least 10 to 15 or so people a week. And I'll have people tell me that they have degrees from Harvard, Princeton, SMU. And I'm like, hey, that's great. I mean, that really, believe me, that's impressive. But I'm like, have you ever worked retail or restaurant? And I'm telling you right now, whatever chip you got on your shoulder, that'll be thrown right off and really start preparing. Of all the years I've had money spent on me to learn and be taught to run and, be a management leadership executive, I still say some of the best training I ever got was in those operation retails with the Footstar folks and with the people at Kroger. So I love how you start that opening in there. It's absolutely perfect for what it is that you're doing. All right.
And I couldn't agree more. Robert. And it's like, at the time, I was not thinking about that. All I thought about was I was excited because I was managing a store at 19.
Yeah.
Or I was running a district of 13 and up to like 35 stores at the age of 24, 25, 26.
Right.
But it happened so fast. But, as I grew and I started to mature, I thought like, what really qualified me to become a district manager at such a young age? I mean, what kind of training did I get? I mean, going back to the point, I can increase sales and I can run a small crew in a store in 4 walls, but like, okay, now I'm ready for the next level. Duplicating what you do in 4 walls to 35 stores is very challenging. Of course, I didn't know that back then, but
it's different psyches, different individuals. Everybody has something that makes them tick that's different. One of the things that's great about this show today with coaching, that's got to be one of your most difficult aspects is reaching out to someone. We are not all the same. We all tick differently, and we have to find what it is that makes that person special or what really triggers them to be able to reach out to them and fix whatever they need or what help what help they need. Because I think that that's one of the foundations of the business coaching is taking someone at a level they don't know where they need to be at. Yeah, it's funny. My brother, who's a very high up exec in a prior company,
Yep.
or in another company, and I don't ever like to say the name. Everybody knows what it is, but I don't like to talk about the name on the show. But I've been fascinated over the last, he tells me, we were talking the other day. He goes, I'm a business coach. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. I go, I'm surprised by that. He goes, why? He goes, they've been really super helpful for me. And a lot of the people, since I've come back into the Keller Williams world, they embrace the coaching aspect. Now, Keller is very unique in the fact that they have internal coaching, but people still use outside coaches too. But
Right.
they have an internal coaching system. They're huge on it. I mean, they swear by the fact that you're talking about people who make a lot of money that still go through these things. So I'm fascinated with the coaching environment. I have several friends that do things that are similar to this, and I love the topic itself. So we were kind of talking last night about some of the things we want to talk about. Yeah, I thought it was so ridiculously weird how the first topic you threw out there was pivot. So if you don't know much about the Keller world, that is a huge topic right now inside the Keller Williams environment, where we talk about pivoting. Gary Keller has been a mastermind of pushing through and adapting into different worlds. And of course, in our new COVID environment right now, we've had so much great change. He's actually volunteered his personal time along with his executive crews, not just into the Keller world, but to every real estate person out there in this pivot market, teaching them how to adapt. So I love how you put that as a topic. I'm like, well, that'll go over really well with our crew, because that's all we've been discussing. So we can talk about pivoting for months. There are a few issues that I wanted to talk about that really reflect what a lot of people that are watching or that will watch have to say about pivoting. We were discussing about adopting to the virtual side of this. There is no doubt right now that the virtual side has encumbered what we're doing. So I want to talk about how you feel about people, how they have to adapt. There are some people who are comfortable with tech. There are some people who can't stand it. There are some people who are willing to learn. I want to talk about, when you talk to your customers and clients, how do we get them to where they're in their right place with the new world that we live in?
Yeah, Robert, and that's a great question. And really, I'm always working from a framework of mindset, because I believe mindset is really the basis, the foundation of everything that we do. Because when you're not in the right state of mind, it's like, I don't know how many people we have watching the show right now. I know there's going to be many others that'll
it's
watch
more
it later on.
Than anything. Yeah.
But I hope that people, you've been doing this for some time. It's a great community for you to provide knowledge, expertise, a great community. And I really hope that people, when they show up, they show up with an open mind. So the mindset it's got to be open. We've got to always show up with a high energy level.
So that's one takeaway. We're big on the show with the takeaways. That's one right now for anybody that's watching, and it will watch on the archive. That's a big takeaway from today, having an open mindset as you get into this. There is nothing but open mind as we walk into this new world. Daily, we are having to adapt to the changes. So I love that. That's a great fundamental, having an open mind as we get into what we're doing. I love that.
Yeah, and on top of that is kind of, energy level. Energy meaning, how are we showing up, right? It's like, again, going back to the mindset, if people show up, whether it's this community or they're reading a book or they're trying to learn something, but they're not in the right frame of mind, it's not going to do them any good, unfortunately, because you have to be open, you have to be in the right, frame of mind.
You can lead a horse to water.
Can't lead a horse to water. Right.
Exactly. It's like, people need to understand that they're investing in themselves, right? Whether it's watching a community like this, reading a book, doing some kind of research, but we're all investing in ourselves.
So that's another takeaway. In a lot of people in the show, I've gotten to where I really try hard to pull the takeaways out because there's so many things that we push out there. That's another one. Okay. That's another takeaway, that we are investing in ourselves. A lot of people, no matter what business you're in, whether it's real estate or whatever, there's a price that has to be paid before you can succeed. Okay. You have to invest in it. You have to invest in the tools, whether it's coaching, whether it's marketing. You have to invest in these things to do well. I saw a Zig Ziglar post before I came out here. I know you see these all the time, and I'm like, a lot of times I flip through them. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But this one, it hit me because it's a belief that I have. It talked about nothing good comes easy. Nothing is going to be great in the interim. And we have so many real estate agents and any of the agents that watch, especially so many of the new ones that watch. It's amazing to me. And my broker peers will be annoyed when I say this, but we bring them in sometimes. We tell them how great they are, how great they're going to be, how awesome they're going to kill it. It cringes me when someone says, oh, they're going to kill it their first year. I'm like, no, they're not. I go, what would make us believe that they're going to kill it this year?
Right.
I mean, does that mean anybody can just go out there and start doing this? This takes a progression of time. Yeah. It doesn't start. So I love how you're saying that because it's like investing. How can you expect to be good immediately if you haven't even invested anything yet? That doesn't even make any sense. You have to be invested. Love that takeaway.
Yeah. Look, 80% of success is mindset. The other 20%, that's the mechanics, the tools, right? I know hope is not a strategy, but I'll say hopefully everyone either has the tools or they're getting the tools to be an expert, an authority in their field, obviously here as real estate agents or brokers. But 80% of it is mindset, right? And yeah, you have to give yourself grace, Robert, just like you're talking about. It's like things take time. There's a natural progression, a process that needs to take place. But I can't speak high enough about the impact of having that open mind. And when you talk about pivoting in today's environment, I mean, look, the last 4 or 5 months, our world has just been turned upside down. Yeah. From the pandemic to the economy. We have something like 30 million people that are unemployed, I think, whatever the numbers are. You have racism going on. So there's a lot of tension. And right when I came on, I think you were talking about people's emotions and what we're having to deal with. And look, I myself, and I'm sure all of us here, everyone out in the world, we've gone through a lot of these emotions the last several months, whether it's frustration, anger, sadness, but it's kind of like the regular seasons throughout the year. There's seasons in the business as well. We're in winter, and now is the time to create. Right. We need to create right now because we do have to pivot. That it's like it's not business as usual.
So that's a big takeaway as well. That's something that Gary Keller pushes quite a bit, and even in our region as well. That now is a redefining stage. Now is I need to adapt and improvise and switch into what this market is now. How it's been in the past is in fact the past. It's not the way it's going to be. And we have to start pivoting to what is the next direction. Now, pivoting is not new to business in general. Pivoting's always been there. Everybody always has to adapt to change, but this one's different. This pivot is different. This is not just a lifestyle change. It's a worldwide change. We're all connected. Boy, if COVID hadn't shown that we're all connected, I don't know what can. We're all connected out there. This type of change is one for lifetimes to come. We are now adapting into a world that has not existed. We knew there are possibilities of things like this happening. There's movies about these things happening. Kind of weird how the fruition comes into, good Lord, that it actually is happening. But now is a redefining time. I love the winter comment. We are kind of in a winter.
Yeah.
We are in a winter because we are having to dig down and say, what does my particular future look like? What is it that I'm going to do? Because that's the key for anybody out there right now that feels like they're not doing as well, that they're lagging, that they've been disrupted because of this. Now's the time that you start reevaluating and say, what do I need to do? We agree that there are some people that are in very hard ways right now. We know that it's what is the next step for them? What is it that they do? Because if the answer is nothing, they're in trouble. What's the old saying that if you can't expect new results if you do the same thing every day?
Yeah.
Nothing ever changes if you do things the same. That's very true for right now.
Carlos, can I ask you, because a lot of people, as we know, they hate change. People don't like change. And in this current environment, change is being forced upon us. And whether you adapt is going to be whether you survive or not, right? But in general, how important is somebody's why to them as far as making changes and improving their business? Because we can say until we're blue in the face, you need to change your strategy, but until they find their why, their real reason which motivates them, how important is that in your coaching?
That's number one.
All right, we're done.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because at the end of the day, that's what should motivate someone. It's your why. Mm-hmm. Everyone's why is different, and I take a lot of my clients through this process where they're really, they're going down so many levels deep to find out their why. And it's different for everyone, but I would say most people, they, their why is because they want to live the life that on their terms. They want to be able to live, they want to do what they want to do and have some kind of finance without any kind of financial restraints. Right. Now, a lot of people don't need to be wealthy, and they can still have a fantastic life. So it's all relative, right?
That's right. Money is relative, right? Money is not what drives happiness for everyone. That's another good point to take away too. There's a lot of people that get confused with the concept that money runs your life. Yeah, money is great to have. It makes things a little more comfortable, but it does not buy happiness. There are different things that drive us towards that happiness.
Yeah,
well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brent.
Well, I learned something that was kind of important about that when I did a BOLD class, which is a 7-8 week coaching course, and they asked people to describe what their ideal situation is. And just when you go around the room, I mean, of course, mine was just something obnoxious, like I want to have 50 million invested, blah blah blah, right? But then you get someone that says, all I want to do is be able to pay for my grandkids' college, and I would be completely happy. And so some people may not be motivated by money, right? Or some people may be motivated by what they can do with it, or some people want to travel. So maybe vision boarding or whatever, but setting up that why will motivate them and push them to take those extra steps.
Yeah, I like Alan's comment on the side here. He says health is wealth. That's a good comment too. Health is wealth. It's true. How you feel and how you live your life is where the true wealth is, at least as far as I go. I believe that.
Yeah, it's the thing about happiness. It's kind of like, so what is happiness? And I would say progress is happiness, right? But when we talk about the things that give us this emotion of happiness, right? It's how long does it last, right? It's like, look, if we have our dream car and we go out and buy it, whether it's a $20,000 car or a $100,000 car, once you buy that car, how long does the happiness last? Is it 1 week? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months?
The first payment comes in.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But my point is, happiness is going to go away, whether you buy whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a dream car. It could be a handbag for a female. It could be your dream home. But the happiness goes away. So you have to ask yourself, like, what creates happiness? And progress creates happiness. When we feel like you're either growing or you're dying. Mm-hmm. And when you're growing, progress is truly happiness. But I couldn't agree with you more, Brent, about the why. That is so critical, because ultimately, when people are not motivated to do what they need to be doing daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, they got to look at their why, and that should be able to motivate them, because whether they need to support their family, put their kids or their grandkids through college, that's what's going to drive them.
It's funny. So since I've come back into the Keller world, that's one of their biggest conversations when they talk to people is, what is your why? So when I came back in, I heard this so much. I'm like, I'm tired of people asking me what the hell my why is. I go, I don't know what the hell the why is. I just do it, but it's funny. My biggest problem with the why is there's so many. It's bringing it down into which one is the true why. That's the hardest thing for me. What is the why? How do I identify? I know there's whys, but which one do I take? I struggle with that.
Yeah, it's like this practice that I walk clients through, and it's like it's kind of like why do you want to be a real estate agent? Okay, well, I want to make more money. Okay, why do you want to make more money? Well, I want to be able to have a nice home. Why do you want to have a nice home? Well, I want to be able to support my family, have security, right? Why is that? So it's a practice. You're peeling the onion back and really getting down to like ultimately like, why do you want this? It's like and there's nothing wrong. Look, if someone's why is like, I want to be able to work for myself or not work and have enough money and spend time with my family, that's okay. If that's what's going to drive you, if that's your why, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. It's funny. I like I think that's a good takeaway too. That's exactly how I feel when I start doing the why. It's one peel back after the next. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good takeaway for a lot of people that are listening, that it's okay when somebody asks you, what is your why? That the answer is general, but how many times do you keep peeling back before you finally get to, that's it. That's why we are doing this. Let me see. Jessica said, I struggle with finding the one why too by going through bringing my MIL into my home after my FL taught me that it's my servant heart that is true, why that derives why I do everything in my life, guiding someone to buy a home, being a mom. So it is. That's exactly what we're talking about. It's one layer after the next. How many times do we have to keep peeling till we're like, I got it. This is it. It's not the easiest thing.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that struck me too when Brett brought up the how important the why question is during kind of the topic at hand, like kind of like pivoting in business and where we go. It's like during crisis, breakthroughs are created, and it's like I learned from one of my mentors from afar, Tony Robbins, that change your story, change your life, because that's associated with the why. We all have a story in our mind, and sometimes, many cases, we need to let go of that past story because that's what's keeping us from moving forward. So that is huge when it comes to like, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. It's kind of like, you've got to change your story to change your life, because then there's triggers that come up for people in life and in business of what's holding them back from wanting, from moving forward, from getting from progress that's going to equate to happiness.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, how do you deal with complacency in people? The people that feel that they're just going to be.
Hang on. I want to say one thing before we go on to that. One of our head bosses, Smokey Garrett, he's pretty much an icon in real estate himself, but he is big on these types of markets redefine who somebody is. This type of market is where the people who lead for the next 20 or 30 years step up. They don't sit. They don't wait. They take the opportunity in a low point and make it a high point. And that's really struck me as a different type of thinking when you have all this negativity out there. But he's done the best that he can with his staff to reinforce that, you get up, you start addressing these things, and you start making your new future be better than everybody else's. They instituted in our particular region where they do this mindset call like at 8:45 in the morning. And I have to admit, I didn't think they would go as long as they did, but it's the point that they know that there's a lot of people who struggle out there, and they do need to hear the stories to redefine themselves, to do a redo, to dig in, define what they are going to do for the future. Because it's just like the people who are benefiting in the financial markets. There will be thousands of millionaires made from the crisis. There
Absolutely.
are people who are watching the financial markets and they're like, there is no way that company stays at that amount. Yeah, it's funny. You watch all the speculation with American Airlines. What's the stock at, like 12? American historically is a $60 to $70 stock. Historically good, strong. There are millions of people right now going, there's no way American stays at 12. There are tons of people who are redefining themselves, redefining their jobs. Everything is working. The people who succeed right now are the ones who are digging in and making that change. But always, I love how you said that. Our boss talks about that a lot, and it's important to me. So I love that.
Brenton, I'm sorry, you were asking.
Oh yeah, complacency. Brent, my bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you battle complacency with, I'm not going to say it's negativity, but it's a lack of belief that they can really do much. They think that they're just born to be mediocre. And how, as a coach, do you overcome that? I mean, the why is probably a big thing, but how do you show them that, no, you can be great if you put the work in and you work.
Carlos, I think that goes in with confidence as well. And that's something I'm really big on. I think those two things mix is what he's talking about. So I'd like to hear how you talk to your folks about that too. How do you build it to where they don't have to accept mediocrity? Accepting mediocrity is tough for me. I have to admit, personally, that's a tough one. When I meet someone who lives like that, I'm like, why? Why would you try to be average? But I'm wired differently. But I'd be curious to see how you get people to that next level.
Yeah, actually, Brent said the key word in that. Not sure if you recognize that, but belief, right? And I'm not talking about just like, okay, yeah, what I believe, but it's like we all live a life based on beliefs that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have certain beliefs that don't serve us, then those need to change. But again, it has to do with finding out like what's bringing up those patterns. So there's various exercises that I work with my clients on to understand, like trying to think of an example where just asking questions to try to find out, like, if I think, Brent, you said like it's not necessarily like someone that's negative,
right?
But I think it's kind of like having, as people, we're trying to have we may not understand like why someone doesn't want to, I guess, progress or improve themselves, right?
Right. Maybe they couldn't ever become a millionaire one day, right? Like, oh, that'll never happen to me.
Which is ridiculous. It can happen to anybody. It can.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, a lot of those beliefs come from, believe it or not, childhood.
Yeah.
And that has gone on for many years, right? Because when we talk about like money, and you talk about beliefs and money, and let's say someone feels like, how about someone that they don't ever feel like they're even going to earn $50,000 in a year,
mm-hmm.
$75,000, $100,000, let alone, hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. But it all comes from, I've not come across a case, and I've dealt with this a lot of the times with business owners and just, other clients, but there's something in their background that is preventing them. It's a belief in the background. So, it may stem from even not only their parents, but their grandparents.
It's amazing how that works, because I believe that. I do believe that something in the past, it's so heavy on someone that it just continues to absorb their life. I think one of the most difficult things for anybody who's had something painful is the process of getting over it. How difficult is that? And the fact that someone might have been bred into you that, hey, this is who you are. I don't think anybody can ever tell you who you are. You're the only one to say, hey, it's me. I know damn good and well what I'm doing, but they certainly can have an impression on making you feel like that. And I think that's the toughest life, is when someone's made you feel that that's who you are, and you're not strong enough to say, no, I'm not. I'm not that. I never will be. I'm not you. I think that's very hard. I can relate to that stuff about past, and that's a tough one. I really, that hits me hard,
Yeah, it's like, we probably have all heard, maybe it wasn't in our own personal childhood or experience, but money doesn't grow on
Trees. Yep.
right. So like even a simple phrase like that, I know I heard it as a kid growing up,
Yep.
with my parents, right? And I wanted this, and my sister wanted this, and my brother wanted this. And my parents, they were challenged. We were, middle class at best, you know. So grateful that, we had a roof over our head. We had plenty of food. It's not like we went without food, but, as kids, we don't know any better. We're kids and we want things. And our parents, my parents, they wanted to give us the best life that they could. But, and it's kind of interesting. So like, where did they hear that from? I'm sure they didn't just make it up.
Nope. Came down.
So did they hear that from their parents?
Mm-hmm.
And where did their parents? So it's something that you really have to go back to kind of, again, dig into to get someone to change, talked about change your story, change your life. That goes right along with it. That's in line with that.
So Alan makes a good comment. He talks about 80% of the population in the USA have no saving. Yep, the past matters. It's first of all that both of those statements are pretty much true. And what's the is it past is prologue? Is that the past does have an effect on what we do? I think the greatest challenge is, do we let the past endure and consume us to where we can't move forward? Because that's the real block. Because anybody can change their life starting now. They just have to do it. The past does affect it, but they can change it.
Yeah, that's right.
There's an excellent book you guys are both touching on, and maybe you guys have read it already, but it's Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And it basically talks about how there's a blueprint that gets put into your body from the moment you're born. And if your parents are always stressed about money and talking about it in a negative way, then you can unintentionally sabotage your own potential as you get older because you see money as a dirty thing.
That's right.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest threats to the business community and the average individual who's out there working is their attitude and their work ethic in general, because those things are very hard to teach. It's not like we can take someone and say, you have a bad attitude, you need to change it. In fact, sometimes it makes it worse when we do that. Those are the hardest. We can teach people the technology side. We can teach people how to do something, but it's very hard for us to persuade their attitude and the way they work. Those are things that they probably developed when they were 4 to 7 years old. And it's very hard if they didn't have the leadership at home to embed that in them for them to embrace it later in life. And I was very fortunate. I did come from a very my father is very high up in the United States government, and my mother was very strong-willed. I was raised on the attitude is horrifically important. The work ethic is everything, and my life has greatly been affected by being taught those things at an early age. But if you don't get that when you're younger, it's very hard to absorb it when you're older. And I think that's probably one of the greatest challenges out there.
Yeah, it's yeah, I can talk about, my past. My parents were divorced. They got separated when I was 8 years old. They got back together a few years later, and they tried to make it work. They couldn't work it out. They basically could not get along. My mom today, she's remarried. My father isn't, but everyone gets together and everyone gets along. My dad's never, like, even though they got divorced and we didn't live together for, probably after middle school, high school, in the same household. He's always been there for us. We've taken trips, what have you. But everyone's past definitely can influence their future, but it's also about taking the time. I think great leaders, when they have employees, and if we try to scratch our head and ask ourselves, like, why is that person not, like, motivated? Why are they complacent? What's going on? We truly need to take the time to find out, like, what's going on in their life.
So that's right. And that's a good one, because that is really, so I have a lot of agents that work with me, and as much as I like to be their helper, their whatever they want to call me, there are things that are affecting their personal lives that if I don't know, it can have an effect on how I respond to them. And I've always been fortunate with being a supervisor or helping people that I see a lot of the stuff. I mean, God, if you heard the daily conversations I have with, I always have told Dina, I should have done this job with a counseling degree and a counseling, financial management, divorce specialist, all those things. I hear the worst stories, but everybody, the way they respond is what's affecting their personal life. I can tell just by the tone in somebody's voice what's wrong. I can tell if something's bothering them. I can tell if something's back there. But if they don't tell me, I don't know how bad it's affecting them. And it does affect what we're trying to accomplish with them. So that personal backside is really a big indicator as to what we're trying to do with them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, even when I was a young manager at Foot Action Robert, and, you know, I could detect, I just had this way of kind of knowing, like, someone, if they're not doing well, then we'd go out to the food court and grab a Chick-fil-A Coke or something and like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, well, you know, work's going on. I'm like, no, I don't want to know about work. I want to know what's going on with you and your life. How's everything? And, you know, we just have to be caring, compassionate people, because I'm sure we all had someone in our life that gave us an opportunity to explain like what was going on in our own mind at a certain point in our time. So,
well, you know, I think a lot of our
that's the way I think.
Yeah, a lot of our agents on a daily basis, that they get confused with them not doing as well versus there's something else going wrong. Something else is happening. It's not the fact. So I deal with this daily. I mean, look, the real estate industry, we lose about 83% of the agents within a year or two. That's a huge turnover. But a lot of them will sit there and talk about, I'm struggling, but they're not struggling with real estate. Real estate is quite simple. Any person off the street, we can take and show them how to do real estate. It always amazes me when someone said, I can't do it. I go, that's not good. I go, I can take an 8-year-old and show them how to do real estate. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's something in the personal side that's affecting them, that's keeping them to their fullest potential. And that's the part that has to be diagnosed. And that is why I'm a fan. This business coaching stuff, it very much borderlines on the counseling side of listening to someone, another outlet for them to listen. And the more you talk to someone, the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn, you give someone else the option from a neutral standpoint to say, I'm not so sure that's what you mean by the way you said that. There are a lot of people in this country that struggle with what they believe is right and wrong. And sometimes they have to talk it through. And I won't be hypocritical. I don't think even into my late 40s, I finally accepted the fact that sometimes I need to talk to somebody and tell them what I think is wrong, because they have an actual very good opinion as to what's wrong, and they can fix it. It took me a long time to get to that point. Long time. Better late than never, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about a couple of things. We've got about 5 more minutes. First of all, I don't want to. I want to make sure we get our sponsors in. I also want to make sure, Brent, do you have Carlos's email? Were you on that email? Can you put that in the comments, and then maybe Mark can put it down there for him? I want Carlos, which number do you want if anybody ever wanted to call you or email? Just say it, and then we'll have it put down on the ticker there.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Phone number 210-823-3026.
I do it one more time.
210-823-3026.
And what's the email they can reach you at?
Carlos at Villarreal. I'll spell Villarreal, VILLARREAL coaching.com.
That's easy.
Brent has that email. Yeah. So Brent can put that in there too. All right. I want to make sure they got that, because valuable information. You know, hopefully a lot of you have seen Carlos's mentality. He's a very easy person to talk to, and I think that's important when you're. I love the show today for two reasons. One, we really hit the scope on what makes somebody tick. These shows, we write down what we want to talk about, and like I said at the beginning, I go, we're not even going to get to the second one, which we won't, because I know how the show works, but it develops in itself, and I like the fact that we kind of laid the groundwork for it. We know what's out there, but we also laid the groundwork for you do need help sometimes. It doesn't have to be a negative perspective. Sometimes you just have to hear someone and hear their embrace of what the fundamentals are of success to put you on the right track. And I love the mentality that you used with that today. It really showed. I mean, I've already known that, but it shows in the general conversation. I certainly don't want to forget our sponsor that sponsors the show, BPG Inspections. We have choices to have hundreds of inspectors out there. DFW, we practice all across the I-35 corridor here, Austin, San Antonio, and I deal with a lot of inspectors, but I'm telling you, Martin Cooley at BPG Inspections is absolutely one of my preferred. We always give people referral choices because we don't want to be the one that says you should use this particular inspector, but I'd be lying if I didn't tell you he was a preferred one for us. He's done hundreds of inspections for our group over the years. His bedside manner is so absurdly good. I mean, he presents it exactly like he should. He says it like he should. He doesn't scare people. He tells them what's wrong. His reports are very easy to review. It's so easy for me when I have to review so many of them to go through. I know exactly when he's highlighted something that's probably the one that we want to fix. You can reach Martin at 817. It's down on the ticker, 401-3240. Again, that's 817-401-3240. Great inspector, great guy. Always appreciate him sponsoring the show. He's definitely a major part of what we do at SWR Group and in the Keller Williams environment as well. So thank you for that, Martin. Okay, we have just a couple more minutes. We're going to bring you back in a couple months or so, because one of the things I wanted to talk about today, I don't even know if 5 shows can do it, is confrontation and rejection.
Yeah.
I would love to hear your perspective. So we are going to do, there we got Carlos's information on the bottom. We are going to do that show in a couple months or so, because I think that that's a good one. I think, and I actually think it links really good with what we were talking about today, as far as your success and your limitations to success. I would have loved to have discussed the part about rejection, because so many real estate agents deal with this in their first few years, and well, even in their latter years.
Yeah.
But the first few years that shapes them on how they respond.
Yep.
How strong are they in being able to take a kick in the teeth? So we're going to lay the groundwork down. I'm telling you right now, too, I don't even have to go through the bullet points. I know that show would be killer, because that is the number one issue, as far as I'm concerned, that keeps somebody from performing, is their rejection and their ability to deal with rejection. It's not easy. It's not easy to deal with rejection. But I'm telling you, the strong ones, the successful ones, they know how to get past it. They know how to take it. They know how to take it, take a shot in the jaw, get back up, and start all over again. And that is something that I cannot wait for us to discuss in a couple months from now, because I really think that that'd be something that everybody benefits from. Look, I want to thank everybody, Carlos especially. Man, I can't tell you how good it is to see you again and talk with you, buddy. It's a long time. I'm so excited about us opening up the branch down there in San Antonio. I'm going to be spending.
Great to see you too, Robert. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, it's really, really good seeing. Thank you for your time too. I know your time is valuable. I told everybody, when I communicate, I go, hey, y'all should be lucky. He charges for this. So you guys are getting a freebie today. So I hope everybody really appreciated it. Brent, thanks as always for being on the show. Your input is much better than mine. So thank everybody. You guys have a great 4th of July. Really, 4th of July this year has a lot more.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you, guys.
So enjoy it. Appreciate it where you live. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.